What's up guys, it's me Deshaun and we will be talking about all of the ignition abilities in Fire Force. This is going to be a bitch. I do not know how long this video is about to be. So without further ado, let's go over every single character and all their ignition abilities that have been shown. Of course, if the character, hasn't displayed an ignition ability, they're not going to be on the list. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, Shinra. He's a 3rd generation and a 4th generation when he uses his Adala Burst, which allows him to move at light speed, travel through time, and he's got a basic ability, Flame Feet, I guess. Number 2 is Maki. She's a 2nd generation, so that means that she's able to manipulate flames, and what she does with her flame manipulation is she makes Pusu Pusu, or yeah, she makes those little fire dudes and they get the job done. Pusu Pusu, yeah. That doesn't sound right, but you know what? We're just gonna roll with it. Hinawa, also a 2nd generation, and he uses his flames to manipulate his bullet speed, and he can redirect them. Arthur, he can generate plasma, and he's a 3rd generation. He can basically make anything he wants out of plasma on spot. If you're further in the manga, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's some pictures up on the screen. Also, spoiler alert, if you don't want more spoilers, don't watch the fucking video. So take that little toe dab I just gave you right there as a warning. Now, next up on the list is Joker. He's a 3rd generation, and what he mostly does, like, obviously, as a 3rd generation, you generate your own flames. You can make whatever you want. So what he usually does is make flaming cards and throws them. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, he does that. Tamaki, also a 3rd generation. She has heat resistance, and she has a flaming cat overcoat. And she does slowly start to master this technique later on in the manga. Juggernaut, another 3rd generation. Also, for future reference, there's definitely going to be a lot of 3rd generations. But when it comes to Juggernaut's ability, he's able to make giant missiles and blow people up and conjure flame guns. Flame Gatling guns. Pretty badass. Pretty Juggernaut-esque if you ask me. Commander Honda, also a 3rd generation. What he does is turns himself into a flaming human cannonball. What he does is he lights his head on fire and just hops into a cannon and shoots himself as a bullet, and then yeah, he headbutts the fuck out of you. Kibana, also a 3rd generation, has her ability Heat Syncope, and basically, if you don't know what Heat Syncope actually is, it's more or less an illness you'll get from heat exhaustion, and that's Kibana's ability, alongside making flowers that are made of fire. Toru is also a 3rd generation fire user. What he does is he makes explosive gum, and basically it's kind of self-explanatory. He'll blow a bubble of gum and it'll blow shit up. And up next we have the Angels of the 5th Brigade. They're also 3rd generation users, and they make flame blade hands with their ability. Nothing too crazy. They just make blades with their hands. Kareem is a 2nd generation flame user, and he manipulates flames by taking away the heat from them and using cryogenic refrigeration. Reika is a 3rd generation, and he uses his Star Fist fighting style to implement flames into his martial arts. Arrow is a 3rd generation fire user, and as her name implies, she makes flaming arrows. Yeah, I never saw that coming either. Benimaru is both a 2nd generation and a 3rd generation, and he uses Iaido martial arts with his ignition ability. Yona is a 3rd generation, and he controls the blood flow in your body to change the shape of your body into whatever he sees fit. Hina and Hika are also 3rd generation flame users, and they basically have the same ability as Tamaki because they also have flame overcoats. Mirage is a 3rd generation ability user, and he manipulates fogs to, guess what? Make mirages. Yeah, I didn't really see that coming either. And next up is Flail. He's a 3rd generation fire user, and he makes a giant flail. Yeah, giant mace. I mean flail. That's made of fire. Giovanni's a 2nd gen fire user, and what he does is he manipulates his fire to move around his mechanical body. Pretty cool if you ask me, because if you have like a mechanical body in the world of Fire Force, you could actually do that because you could just manipulate it with your flames. Hopefully we'll see more characters like that in the future. Liza is a 3rd gen flame user, and she makes giant magnetic flame tentacles. Pretty cool. Yeah, I bet you guys thought I was about to make a generic hentai joke. No. Sho, also a 3rd generation and a 4th generation. He has accelerated perception, or if you want to be a pansy, you can call it time stop. If you'd like more details on Sho's ability, please use my Show Explained. Fuck! Please use my Show Explained ability. I'm just gonna fucking kill myself. If you have any questions, just watch my damn video, bruh. Assault! Is a 3rd gen fire user, and he makes giant flaming bullets. Yes, pretty tough. I like his ability. Palmei is a 3rd generation ability user, and she uses electricity. And she can also communicate with you telepathically through electromagnetic waves. Commander Huang is also a 3rd generation fire user, and what her ability is accelerated cell division, and she uses this to heal people. General Pon, if you don't know him, he's the dude with the whistle. He's also a 3rd gen, and what he does is he buffs people and gives them flame resistance. Ogun is a 3rd generation flame user, and he has the Yoruba Forge, which allows him to make any form of weaponry that he wants out of flames, and he also has the ability to make flame tattoos that will power him up and make him significantly stronger than what he originally was. Inca is a 3rd and 4th generation who can look into the future, and she basically sees this line and she can connect the line from start to finish and blow people up. I don't know how to describe her ability because it's definitely one of the more unique ones, but hey, I can't say much, bro. Charon is a 2nd generation fire user who uses kinetic energy, and he absorbs it and then he releases it for his attacks. The Shadow of the Holy Sun Captain is a 3rd generation. His ability is probably the most basic ability that virtually anybody could do, and he basically lights his chain sword on fire and fights with it. Kurono is a 3rd generation that actually uses heated black smoke as his ignition ability, and he'll take this same smoke and conjure it into different types of weapons and traverse through it. The Puppeteer from Hajime Industries is a Gen 2, and her ability is to control her mechanical puppets with her fire. Ritsu is a 3rd generation fire user, and her ability is to reanimate corpses. I don't know exactly how it works, but I assume it's similar to how Commander Huang manipulates the cells of the body. Nataku is a 3rd and 4th generation, and his ability is to conjure flame claws. In his 4th generation ability, we don't know exactly what he can do with his powers, but we've seen him shoot lasers, and he does emit radiation. Hijiki, his generation is not actually specified, but I'm gonna go ahead and assume that he's a 3rd generation. He cannot manipulate flames or make flames, but he does have the ability to pick up the thermal signatures of things that he's looking at and use that as if it were thermal vision. Orochi is a 3rd generation fire user, and her ability is to conjure a giant flame whip and basically beat your ass with it. Iron, oh my god, these names, Ōkubo. Well, if you haven't guessed it already, he can harden his body and turn it into iron with his flame ability. He's also a 3rd gen. And Sasori, yet again another 3rd gen, uses his fire to make a scorpion tail, and he attacks people with it. Yona's Servant is also a 3rd generation flame user and makes flame blades. Gold is a 3rd generation fire user and actually uses magnetism as an ignition ability, but they're able to do this because they have a golden gauntlet, and when they heat up that gold, that same gold is then given magnetic properties. Dragon is a 3rd generation flame user who has explosive fire, and he also has the ability to conjure infernal dragon scales around his body and actually grow wings. Sumere is a 3rd gen who is able to make earthquakes and vibrations. She's able to do this by vibrating her muscles, which then allows her to make heat, and then she takes that same heat and turns it into kinetic energy. And once that heat that she's just made is then turned into kinetic energy, she then takes that same kinetic energy and then creates vibrations with it. Feiry, yet again another 3rd generation fire user, has the ability to manipulate gravity, and he's able to do this because he heats up the atoms in whatever object he's trying to change the gravity with, and once he does heat up these atoms, it increases the mass of that object, and that is what changes the gravitational force between that same object and the earth. And he can also make illusions. Kareen is a 3rd gen flame user, and he creates flame scales, which he uses for both offensive and defensive maneuvers. Takigi is a 2nd gen flame user, and he's Maki's brother, so obviously he has the same ability as Maki. Conro is a 3rd gen fire user. He might as well have the same ability as Shinra, but rather than boosting from his legs, he boosts from his arms. Lieutenant Burns also has a 3rd generation flame ability, but what he does is he overheats as time passes, and every second he fights, he is getting stronger, and he has 4 stages to this ability, and he just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. until he finally overloads. There's this Nameless member of the Butchers. He actually uses wind as his ignition ability. And he's able to fight with this wind because once he generates fire, he manipulates the air currents with that same fire. Foin Lee is a 3rd generation and he uses Lantern Fist martial arts, but there has been official artwork from Ōkubo himself of him having a gun hand, so he might actually have a flamethrower arm later on in the story. But yes, holy crap, that was a lot of ignition abilities. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did actually making it, because I love Fire Force and I want more people to read it. And hopefully, if you're new to the series, you just saw how cool these abilities are and it makes you want to read it. Or I don't know, maybe if you've already read the manga, you want a refresher. But I just felt like I had to get this video out there. So yes, I'll see you guys in the next Fire Force video, and y'all take it easy. And also, please don't be afraid to check out my other Fire Force videos. I do plan on making a hell of a lot more, so make sure you stay around for that.